Today we will start structural equation modeling part 1, that is measurement model, SEM, that is structural equation modeling measurement model. Now, let me see the content of today's presentation. That will start with conceptual model, then the assumptions of the model, then how to estimate the model parameters and model adequacy test, followed by a case study. You see, in last class I have explained that structural equation modeling has two components. One is measurement, another one is structural component. The measurement component is essentially a confirmatory factor analysis. And structural part, or we can say the structural model is equivalent to your path model or path analysis. Both the model, the measurement as well as structural part, there are three important steps. One is model identification, then parameter estimation, and model adequacy test. This is true for structural part also. In this lecture, we will consider the measurement part, which is confirmatory factor analysis. So, let us start with a conceptual model first. You see here, in last class I have shown you similar diagram, and you see there are three factors, xi1, xi2 and xi3, and each of the factors are manifested by different variables starting from x1, x2, x3 for xi1, x4 and x5 for xi2, and x6, x7, x8 for xi3. So, in confirmatory factor analysis, the basis is that there are hidden constructs, which are these, or latent construct, other way we can say hidden variable also, that xi1, xi2, xi3, which are the causes of some manifest variables like x1, x2, x3 to x8. By putting this arrowhead, for example, from xi1 to x1, xi1 to x2 and xi1 to x3, we are restricting the model here in such a sense that we know that xi1 is manifested by x1, x2 and x3, these manifest variables. Similarly, xi2 is manifested by x4 and x5. Similarly, xi3 is manifested by x6, x7 and x8. Another issue here, that these hidden construct or latent construct or latent variables, they co-vary in the sense that if xi1 change, there may be a change of xi2, there may be change of xi3 when the correlation component is there. So, this type of this is a typical structure of confirmatory factor model. And other issues here, apart from this correlation between the constructs, which is denoted by phi, this one phi 2 1, this is phi 3 1, this curve line, this curvature line is basically phi 3 2. Now, we are saying x1 is caused by xi1, and as a result a causal linkage is given xi1 to x1, and the parameter which basically depicting the relationship between xi1 and x1 is lambda 1 1. Earlier I also told you this lambda 1 1, this 1 1, this suffix comes, that x1, from x1 this 1 is taken and xi1 1 is taken. Okay. So, it is not possible that the variability of x1 will be fully explained by xi1. So, there is possibility of some other variables or hidden causes which may affect x1, or we can say the errors part, noise part, and all those things are considered by delta 1. So, in the same manner you have to explain x1, x2, x3 and up to x8. What I said verbally, this is depicted here in equation form. We are saying x1 is represented by lambda 1 1 xi1 plus delta 1. If you think from regression line point of view, you will be getting this equation. Okay. So, in the same manner there are as there are 8 x variables. So, you are getting 8 linear equations, and collectively if you write in matrix form, then that will be x 8 cross 1 equal to that capital lambda, which is a matrix of the dimension 8 cross 3, and which you can see here 8 cross 3 dimensions here, because xi1, xi2, xi3 that 3 and 8 x variable, this 8 plus this xi plus delta this one. So, this is the matrix form equation for this particular example. Now, we can go for a general equation from there. That means, what I mean to say here, that the general equation will be x p cross 1, where we are saying there are p number of manifest variables, and which can be represented by this manner, that lambda, which is a matrix relating p manifest variable to m factors, and these m factors are denoted by like this m cross 1, and definitely for every manifest variable there will be an error. So, this is the equation for confirmatory factor model, and in fact, if you see the recall that exploratory factor analysis, you have found out there are also similar relationship, but there is difference. Okay, difference in the structure of the model, in the model assumption in the covariance structure. So, what are the assumptions here? We assume that the expected value of delta equal to 0, that means the noise variable, the error terms, that mean is 0, and covariance of delta, this one is your theta, or you can write theta delta also sometimes, theta or theta delta, and it is symmetric, Okay. So, if I say like this, this will be p cross p. So, this will be the variance component of delta, of diagonal will be the covariance, and they will be equal, that is why they are symmetric. And delta is multivariate normal with mean 0 and covariance matrix theta delta, or you can write theta also. Okay. Another important issue here is that the assumption is that covariance between xi, the manifest the latent construct, and the error terms related to the manifest variable, they are 0. Okay. So, this is our your assumptions related to confirmatory factor model. Now, there are, as I told you, there are covariance structure. So, the covariance structure of your CFA covariance structure, first one is covariance of x, this will be capital sigma p cross p. There will be covariance structure for the xi latent construct, this one will be phi, which is again m cross m matrix, diagonal, not diagonal, this is symmetric matrix. Then covariance of delta, which we say theta p p. Okay. It is mostly assumed as diagonal matrix. Okay, assumed as diagonal. Not necessarily always it will be diagonal, but it is assumed like this. So, you have seen earlier in your exploratory factor analysis also, we have written x equal to the delta xi plus, I think here lambda xi plus delta, this is capital lambda xi plus delta. Now, if you find out the covariance of x, then ultimately what you will be finding out, it will be you will be finding out something like this plus covariance of this delta, this is theta. In and this phi was not there in exploratory factor analysis, it was I. Phi, if phi equal to I, then it is orthogonal factor analysis. Okay. So, this is in nutshell the that covariance structure and the relationship between this. Okay. So, now let us come to the model identification part. What I mean to say here by model identification, if you clearly look into the model and the parameters that to be estimated as well as the information what is available, there must be sufficient necessity and sufficiency of the information available to estimate the parameters of the confirmatory factor model. Okay. So, in order to do so now let us find out that what are the parameters we require to be estimated. If you see this slide, you see that we have few parameters to be estimated from in CFA. One is your lambda, capital lambda, which is P cross M matrix. So, these many parameters to be estimated. There is phi, which is also a P cross P matrix, which is P cross P matrix, but being symmetric, it has phi is M cross M matrix. I am sorry, phi is M cross M matrix, which is symmetric matrix. So, number of parameters will be m into m plus 1 by 2 to be estimated, and then there is theta delta, as I told you that theta delta, what is this? This theta delta. This is delta, this is theta delta. Okay. So, theta delta or theta. So, there if we assume that it is diagonal, then there will be p number of parameters to be estimated. So, we require to estimate capital lambda, we require to estimate phi, we require to estimate theta delta. Here in case of capital lambda, p cross m, this number of parameters, phi m into m plus 1 by 2, this number of parameters, theta delta p number of parameters are there. So, then in total the number of parameters to be estimated we can write p m plus m into m plus 1 by 2 plus p. Okay. Now, what you require to know that if t, suppose t equal to 50, if you require to estimate P 50 parameters and you require at least 50 simultaneous equations, getting me. So, now what information we have in case of confirmatory factor analysis? We have only one information, that is capital sigma, which is the variance covariance matrix of X, that is covariance matrix of X. Now, how many unique or non-redundant elements is that? This is also a symmetric matrix. So, it has number of non-redundant element equals to P into P plus 1 by 2. Now, see this what type of situation will occur. We require to estimate T number of parameters. It may so happen that number of parameter to be estimated is greater than number of independent non-redundant elements in P, that is the available information. It may so happen that T equal to P into P plus 1 by 2. It may so happen that T less than P into P plus 1 by 2. Now, the first case, this is model cannot be identified, this is model is unidentified or under identified, unidentified. This case, number of parameters or number of unknowns and knowns are equal. This is uniquely identified case. And this case, this is over identified because we have more information available, over identified case. So, at least these two are necessary. If you have this case type of situation which is uniquely estimated, if you have this over estimation, and that is the desirable one, over estimation is the desirable one. This condition, particularly these two, if these two conditions are either of the two is satisfying, you are saying that necessary condition is satisfied, necessary condition, which is also known as order condition. Okay. But order condition alone is not sufficient. This is necessary condition, necessity is satisfied. There is another condition called rank condition, because you will see that we are basically talking about the matrices. So, the rank condition, rank of matrix is important issue here, and it is a little bit complicated one also. So, rank conditions also parallelly you have to satisfy, then that rank condition is not is the sufficient condition, and for example is given that Wiley 1973, that is the reference. So, you can now order conditions satisfy the necessity and rank condition satisfy the sufficiency. Let us assume that it is done in the sense model is identified. If model is identified, the next step is how to estimate the model. So, estimation of model parameters. Okay. So, you have seen that we assume that ultimately that x, the manifest variable, is normally distributed. It is definitely multivariate normal, p x variable p number of variables are there, multivariate normal with mean 0 and variance covariance matrix sigma, capital sigma. Then for any observation, multivariate observation x I, you can write that this is the PDF can be written like this: 2 pi to the power p by 2 sigma determinant to the power half e to the power minus half, then x minus mu we used to write, that is xi minus mu is 0 here. So, xi minus mu transpose, that means xi transpose f sigma inverse xi. This is the multivariate normal distribution probability density function for a particular multivariate observations. Now, you collect n observations I equal to 1 to n. We want to know the log, first the likelihood. So, likelihood, if you see this equation, you see that there is only one parameter which is sigma and mu is 0. So, only one parameter is there. So, we can write log of likelihood of sigma, not log, likelihood of sigma, which can be written as multiplication of this I equal to 1 to n f x I, which will be multiplying I equal to x equal to x 1, x 2 up to x n. Then the resultant will be like this, 1 by 2 pi to the power n p by 2, then determinant to the power n by 2, then e to the power minus half, then sum I equal to 1 to n, then x I transpose sigma inverse x I. That is what will be the likelihood. And it is customary to take log likelihood. So, if you take log likelihood, then what you get? You get minus n p by 2 log 2 pi for here for this term, minus n by 2 log this for this term, minus half I equal to sum of I equal to 1 to n x I transpose in sigma inverse x I. So, obviously, this from our we want to estimate this sigma that parameters, it will be a we will go for some optimization route, and there this constant term in the equation has, whether you add keep it or do not keep it, this is immaterial. So, we will remove this constant term. So, we can write this as minus n by 2 log of this plus half of I can you write like this, minus n by 2 into this minus. So, minus half of this x I transpose this x I. Okay. So, let me write afresh that log of L this sigma equal to minus n by 2 log determinant sigma minus half x I transpose sigma inverse x I. Now, this term can be written like this, minus n by 2 log this minus, if I write n by 2, then summation I equal to 1 to n, this can be written like this, 1 by n I am taking because I have considered n here. So, this one can be written like this, okay, right, again you write like this, then I will come to other form, n by 2 this minus n by 2, we can write this quantity as stray 1 by let it be 1 by trace of 1 by n x I transpose x I sigma inverse. This is possible. Now, 1 by n x I transpose x I, this is nothing but variance covariance matrix of the sample, provided n is large, 1 by n minus 1 and 1 by n will become same. So, okay, with modification we can write like this, minus n by 2, then this is trace of S sigma inverse. This one is minus n by 2 log of this plus stress of S sigma inverse. Okay. So, this is your log likelihood. Now, see what is the condition here in our estimation here. Actually, this procedure is like this. You will be from the model covariance of x, your lambda phi lambda transpose plus theta delta, from this you will get covariance of x sigma, that is sigma in terms of model parameters. You collect sample, then you get the covariance matrix also. So, from sample there will be S is the again P cross Q, that sample covariance matrix there. What we want to do? We want to match these two. Suppose a condition is such that S is equal to sigma, then if I put here what I can write, log of L of S, this can be written like this, log of S determinant of S plus trace of S inverse. Now, S inverse is I, S inverse is I. So, you can write like this log of S plus sum of the diagonal elements of the matrix I, that is P. Okay. So, this is your equation number 1. Now, another one is we have already seen the likelihood one, this equal to minus n by 2 log of this plus trace of this. This is our equation 2. So, what we want? We want to find out parameters. Now, this sigma, this will be in terms of model parameters here, and here when we are talking about S, it is basically the numerical values, and here it is in terms of model parameters like lambda, phi and all those things. So, we will create a function now that we want to minimize, that we are saying f theta, which is nothing but S minus sigma theta of this nature, which I am saying not exactly equal to, which will be of this nature. So, then we can write like this, f theta equal to log of L S minus log of L sigma, which if you write, this is minus n by 2 log of determinant of S plus P plus n by 2 log of determinant of sigma plus trace of S, this trace of S sigma inverse. So, this one you can write minus that n by 2, then log of determinant of sigma plus trace of S sigma inverse minus log of S determinant S minus P. We want to minimize this function. So, keeping this constant n by 2 again is of no use. So, final equation will be for our estimation is this log of determinant of sigma plus trace of S sigma inverse minus log of S minus P. This is the equation which we want to minimize. Okay. So, it is a nonlinear issue. You have to use Newton-Raphson or similar method, Newton-Raphson or similar method of numerical that optimization cut. Okay. So, this is what is in the nutshell the parameter estimation in case of confirmatory factor analysis, which is basically our measurement model. And you see here this is the f theta log sigma theta stress of this is the case ignoring the constant. So, ultimately minimize this one using Newton-Raphson or Gauss algorithms. Okay. So, now let us see that whatever mathematics we have described now, can it be put into a case study as a real life example. I will show you the example here, which I have shown you earlier also in the last class, in the first class of structural equation modeling. I have shown this one, but there what I have done actually I have given you a glimpse of these things, just like scrolling down the slides, because just to give you the glimpse of what is this. Now, I will describe in detail that what is this measurement model and with the same case study. Okay. So, the case study, as you know, it is the role of personal and socio-technical factors in work injuries in mines and study based on employees perception, and you can see that the source is Paul and Maiti 2008, it is published in Ergonomics. Okay. So, let us start with like this, that we have several manifest variables. Here there are 18 manifest variables. For example, age, experience, impulsivity, negative affectivity, depression, risk taking, safety training, safety practice, safety equipment availability of maintenance, job stress, like this. You are wondering that how we I am saying these are manifest variable, although most of the things cannot be observed. So, actually what happened, for every of the variable we ask several questions, and then those questions are summed into a particular quantity, and then that summed up values we have taken as the value for each of the variable for each of the observations or individuals who participated in the study. So, in that sense it is manifest variable, means observed variables in that sense. Otherwise, it is a two layers, one layer questions, actually it was like this, one layer all questions, then they are summed to these manifest variables, what we are saying, they are summed, and then further level of aggregation. Actually, suppose there are question 1 2, question let it be 150, then there are manifest variable like xi 1, there are like 18, then these are again it is aggregated into what I can say, these are x 1, sorry, these are x 1 to x 18, then aggregated to xi 1 to some xi, let it be xi 9. So, this level of aggregation is done here. Okay. So, we are taking in this level aggregation, we are also considering here it is a manifest variable, but you may start from here to here absolutely, but that will be cumbersome, we have avoided this. So, the same thing if you write in the confirmatory factor analysis form, it will be something like this. You see all this that covariant structure between this 9 zeta xi variables, it is not pictorially shown because of space constraint, but other way this is the issue. Okay. And then what will happen, we will immediately you can go for the equations also for this, you are getting me. So, like I am giving one equation only here. If I want to know what is x 1, then this is nothing but I can write lambda 1 1 xi 1 plus delta 1. If you consider this, so here lambda 1 1 xi 1 plus delta 1. Similarly, this one lambda 2 1 xi 1 plus, so x 2 will be lambda 2 1 xi 1 plus delta 2. If you consider x 3, come back to this again x 3. So, x 3 is ultimately you just see it is the single indicator manifest variable for the construct xi 2. So, x 3 can be written like this also, that 3 2 xi 2 plus delta 3. So, in the same manner as there are x 18. So, you will be able to write x 18. Come to this one, x 18 is again a single indicator for xi 9. So, this is your lambda 18 9 xi 9 plus delta 18. Okay. So, you can write in matrix form. When you write in matrix form, you will be getting a equation. In matrix form, equation will be, we said x equal to lambda xi plus delta. This equation you can find out. Here we have 18 cross 1. This will also be 18 cross 1. This is our 9 cross 1. So, this will be 18 cross 9. So, this type of equation you can find out. Okay. Now, let us see the model identification for this case. Okay. You just see that lambda part, that how many lambda are there. You count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So, 18 lambdas. So, we have written lambda 18 because others are 0. For example, lambda 3 1, if you give one linkage here, that lambda 3 1, that is 0 because it is a confirmatory. We know what are the manifest variable coming out of the hidden constructs. Phi, there are how many x? 18 x. So, how many xi? 9 x's. So, m into m cross m into m plus 1 by 2, m into m plus 1 by 2. So, 9 into 10 by 2, that will be 45. So, you have lambda, that is your 18, then your phi related variables will be 45, phi related parameters will be 45, theta delta again 80, delta 1 to delta 18. So, our T is 18 plus 45 plus 18, that is 81. Now, what is the unique elements there? We have 18 manifest variable cross 18. So, 18 into 19 by 2, this will be 171. Now, T equal to 81, it is much less than 171, the model is over identified. Model is over identified. It is a good case. It is a good case. Okay. So, and necessity condition is satisfied and sufficiency we have not tested here that sets, but it should, the softwares they test all those things. Now, let us see that data part. The data part actually random independent sampling. First we have taken accident group of workers, followed by with frequency matching non accident group of workers. There are altogether 300 observations. So, immediately as I told you that how many independent non-redundant element in your sigma matrix, this is the case. This is from sample, these are all correlation matrix. Now, question what do we want? We want basically to minimize this function, and in this matrix is basically for S, that is sample covariance matrix, but actually we have taken correlation. Now, question comes whether covariance or correlation. It all depends on the purpose of the study. In our purpose of the study, we are more interested in the pattern of the relationship rather than the original strength of relationship between latent variable and your manifest variable. We are more interested in the pattern of the relationships and not the original value. So, when you are interested in the pattern of relationship, R is a very good R matrix should be used, that is correlation matrix should be used. Okay. Now, through definitely it is f theta is, this is the function which is to be minimized, and we have used LISREL software in this case, LISREL linear structural relations. Okay, LISREL linear structural relation. Okay. So, this software we used, and ultimately this is what is the all the parameters which is estimated. You can see if you go back that lambda 1 1, lambda 2 1, lambda 3 2, lambda 4 3 like this, and you see that lambda 3 2, what is the value of lambda 3 2 here? Lambda 3 2 is 1, because this one indicator with one construct, we assume that this is the this manifest variable itself is the construct, one variable was there. Understood? So, what will be the what is the output of this measurement model? See, ultimately we are talking about long back, I think this one, these things, when we have clubbed into these factors, these are all factors or constructs, latent construct, this xi 1 to xi 9, these are not arbitrary xi 1 to xi 9, they have some meaning. Actually, x 1 x 2, if you see that age and experience, then demographics, this is xi 1. Impulsivity, negativity, all four are clubbed together, and the xi 2 value is actually that negative personality is given here. I think it is xi 3. Okay. X 1, x 2, x 3 is work injury, x 3 is work injury, we kept it is as it is works x 3. Xi 3 is, you see that negative personality, then xi 4 is your safety environment, and again xi 5 is job stress, xi 6 is social support, xi 7 is job dissatisfaction, xi 8 is work hazard, xi 9 is safe work behavior. So, these are all latent variables in this sense. Now, we also want to know the correlation matrix between the latent variables, which will be the output of this measurement model. You see that demographic, work injury, negative personality, these are the latent constant, and this is your correlation matrix. And there are little star is there, this star indicates 0.05 probability level of significance. I think all are significant here except this value 0.04, 0.01, some are not significant, but it is significant. Essentially, we are interested from measurement model to know that what is the correlation matrix of the latent constructs or factors what we are going to evaluate or estimate. Getting me? That is what we have done, and we have done this with the help of this lambda values and the error terms. You are getting these values, and this is a very very important one, because this will be used in structural model as input to structural model in structural equation modeling. I told you that structural equation modeling 2 parts, ACM has 2 parts, measurement model and structural model. The output of these will be input to this. Okay. Fine, but would I consider the structural measurement model? Would I consider the measurement model as a fit or not? So, if the model is not fit, if it is not adequate enough, then the correlation matrix between the constructs generated, they are not good also. We have doubt about those correlation values. We cannot abruptly accept this one. Now, in model adequacy test in last class also I told you that fit index, there are 3 types of fit index: absolute fit index, relative fit index and parsimonious fit index. under absolute fit index chi-square by degree of freedom. So, absolute fit index, relative fit and parsimonious fit index we are discussing about, and absolute fit index there are many indices like chi-square by degree of freedom, goodness of fit index, or root mean square residual, root mean square that is RMSE, ACA, standard error approximation, then relative fit index. These are the standard indices available in any literature related to structural equation modeling. And most of the, why most, I think almost all the indices are based on chi-square value. So, we will discuss little of this. For example, absolute fit index, what it does it answers this question: is the residual or unexplained variance remaining after model fitting appreciable? Okay. So, we do something like this. There will be two hypothesis, null and alternate hypothesis. Null hypothesis is, we are saying that sigma equal to sigma theta, that actually that what you have estimated, that is correct, and alternatively you are saying no, they are not correct. So, then this we will define one quantity called chi-square, which is n minus 1 into f theta, that f theta you have seen that the minimization function. So, that value you have after estimation. So, chi-square, that n minus 1 f theta, this follows chi-square distribution with new degrees of freedom, where nu can be estimated like this: p into p plus 1 by 2 minus t, that is the number of non-redundant elements minus number of parameters to be estimated, that is what more degree of freedom available here. Okay. And you will find out that the what chi-square value you get that should be as small as possible, because if for perfect fit f theta will be 0, then n minus 1 into f theta, that will be 0. So, 0 is the ideal value, but equally it all depends on sample size also n minus 1. Now, see that you will never get this f theta will be 0, because you are doing the numerical way of numerical optimization, where some convergence value will be there. Now, if n is sufficiently large, what will happen? This value also will become large. So, what you want to, how do then justify that whether your model is fit or not? One way is that this value should be as small as possible, and other one is you go by chi-square by degree of freedom. So, it is recommended in the literature that essentially the chi-square distribution is such that the expected value of chi-square nu is nu, because that is the degree of freedom, because it is this parameter in chi-square is the degree of freedom only. So, actually the chi-square by degree of freedom should be 1, but it is not recommended. What is said that 2 to 5 is the recommended value because of all practical constraints. Okay. Now, if you use GFI, that is goodness of fit index, which is similar to R square in multiple regression, you can remember or recollect that R square equal to 1 minus SSE by SST. Now, you see this formulation here, the way we have written here, that 1 minus trace of this by this. So, this is the total variability, and this one is the error term. It is similar to R square, and this GFI value varies from 0 to 1, and it is desirable that GFI is greater than 0.90. So, in your model, when you develop a measurement model, the software will give you the GFI value. If you find out that the GFI value is 0.9 or more, then it is good, it is desirable. But if it is less than 0.9, what you will do? You will not consider that your model. It all depends on the system for which you are developing the model. I am telling you, even 0.8 also you can consider, absolutely no problem. If you think that the dynamics and is huge, the volatility is more, many other issues you have to take into consideration. So, now another index is RMR. I think this is something where each of the value of the S matrix and each of the and corresponding value of the estimated matrix, that sigma. Basically, you take S, then you estimate sigma, and by that process in between the parameters are also estimated. Now, the values sigma and S values, S this values and sigma estimated these values are there, getting me. So, now if you take this and this, what is the difference? Take this, what is the difference? You will take this, what is the difference? These differences are squared here. You see what we have done, S j k minus sigma j k, this is the estimated one, the square by p into p plus 1, that is the non-redundant part. 2 is given because that is twice of this by 2, p into p plus minus 2. So, this quantity should be also as low as possible. It varies from 0 to 1 and RMR should be less than 0.05. And for RMSEA, root mean square error approximation, this is the modulus of chi-square minus its degree of freedom by n minus 1. It is seen that 0.03 to 0.08 in this range is lies, and this range also says substantial improvement. Okay. Then relative fit index. Now, how well does a particular model do in explaining a set of observed data compared with a range of other possible models? Here what you do, you create nested model, several models, and then you compare one model with other, and then you say which model is better, and based on this you create a index, and that index talks about your model adequacy, or other way I can say improvement in terms of model adequacy. Okay. Here mostly we consider the null model, that is the worst fit model, which is known as null model, where we think that the covariance matrix is diagonal, only diagonal mean variance part is there, off diagonal elements are 0. So, now if you say that x chi-square for the null model is chi-square 0 and chi-square for the proposed model is chi-square nu, where nu is the degrees of freedom, then you are in a position to develop or I can say quantify these indices like NFI. NFI is chi-square 0 minus chi-square nu by chi-square 0, and all these indices, these values lie between 0 to 1, and it is desirable that they will be greater than 0.90. Then CFI, comparative fit index, that is 1 minus chi-square nu minus nu by chi-square 0 minus nu 0, and TLI, Tucker Lewis index, this also in the similar manner. You see, ultimately they take into consideration the chi-square value of the proposed model and a worst fit model, which is known as null model, and the comparative indices are developed, and higher the index value, it is better, 0.9 or more is required. Then your parsimony fit index, it is similar to adjusted R square, RS square in your regression, and it basically talks about that per parameter, fit per parameter estimates, and AGFI, here you just see that the upper portion or the denominator here, it is divided by the degree of freedom, and numerator also divided by the degree of freedom, what we have done in calculating R square. This value should lie between 0 and 1, and AGFI greater than 0.90 is desirable. Then parsimonious norm fit index, which is nu by nu 0 NFI, and where this is nu is the degree of freedom proposed model, and like this. Okay. Now, let us see the goodness of fit indices for the case study, and here some of the fit indices I have given, there are others. So, chi-square degree of freedom is 99, chi-square value is 257.24. If you divide by 99, this is almost 100. So, it will be around chi-square by degree of freedom is around 2.6. So, it is good because the range is 2 to 5. root mean square residual 0.06, which is little more than 0.05, CFI is 0.98, very good, more than 0.90, NFI 0.97, more than 0.90, CFI is 0.99 and IFI is 0.99. So, essentially then chi-square is 257.24, chi-square by degree of freedom is around 2.6, RMR is 0.06, GFI is 0.98. Like this model is very good fit model. Okay. So, now see that who has basically worked in this, who are the pioneers, that Carl Joreskog and Doug Sorbohm. I think in the year around 1978 probably they have developed this. The software first Lisrel came I think in 1989, and it is a remarkable development in this field, and we all are tremendously benefited. And what I can tell you further that in order to understand the structural equation modeling, I might say that that Joreskog Sorbohm, this Lisrel 8 structural equation modeling with simplex command language, this manual is very good and you can go through, and there is a lot of publication by Joreskog and Sorbohm. Others is the Heduk is one person who has written a book, and this is a very good book also. In addition, there are many other books available in structural equation modeling. So, finally, let me just summarize to my students' lecture. We said that structural equation modeling has two parts. One is measurement model, another one is structural model. So, measurement model is nothing but confirmatory factor analysis, structural model is actually path analysis. Okay. Now, we have discussed details of CFA in terms of its identification. What I say that under identification there will be necessary condition, there will be sufficient condition, these two must be satisfied. In necessary condition is known as order condition, and this one is known as rank condition, other one sufficient condition is known as rank condition. And in this order condition, we say the number of parameters to be estimated must be less than number of non-redundant elements in the covariance matrix. Then this is over identification case, and it is a desirable case. Then we have shown you the estimation, parameter estimation. Now, I said that parameter estimation, it is basically a function you minimize, which is basically log of determinant of sigma plus trace of S sigma inverse minus log of determinant of S minus P. And this function is minimized through Newton-Raphson or similar method, and then the parameters are estimated, and actually we have sample data in terms of S or R, and we have the population value in terms of sigma theta. We try to match these two, and using this function the best match is considered, and then you corresponding that theta values, these are used. Now, theta is function of many things like lambda, like your phi, like your theta delta. So, these are theta means so many things are there, any combinations, that is what you are trying to estimate, because you from correlation matrix to here correlation matrix or covariance to covariance 1 to 1, this correspondence you are doing. This is parameter estimation. Once parameters are estimated, then you can test the parameter values, this lambda, using simple t test, whether it is significant or not. But apart from this, the another important output from this CFA is after parameter estimation is your correlation matrix of the latent correlation or covariance matrix of the latent constructs, which is very, very important, because this will be the input to the structural model. Then what I have given you, that what are the model adequacy test. So, under model adequacy we have seen that absolute test, and then your comparative test or relative test. Another one is parsimonious. Absolute is similar to R square R A square, where the actual variance explained is considered, and comparative case you compare with different models, and parsimonious case it is basically fit per parameter estimated. Okay, and we finally I have shown you a case study for all of you. The case study is there. If you are interested, please go through Paul P. and Maiti J. The Synergistic Role of Sociotechnical and Personal Characteristics in Minds, published in Ergonomics in 2008. Thank you very much.